And thank you for joining us here at TAKTEK Labs. I am Tak the Technomancer, and we are here today with another creeper build or creeper PC fridge build. So we're taking a charged creeper. It's the the Thunderstruck charged creeper, and we are going to be converting it over into a mini ITX PC build. And we are going to be water cooling it. So we're going to go through here with the GPU water cooling. We have our workstation all set up here with the GPU. We got this GPU from the, sorry. We're going to be doing a full GPU water build, water block here for this graphics card. You should be able to use this as a learning point to water block any graphics card. At this point, maybe some of the newer ones will be a lot more difficult, but it's pretty much the same process all the way through. We're going to be using this one right here from PNY. This is a 3070. Interestingly enough, this shares the same motherboard layout as the Founders Edition, which is why this water block is compatible. We have the EK Quantum Vector 37FE water block and the back plate. We're going to be putting those on. It's right here. So this is the water block side. Isn't that beautiful right there? Nice mirror finish. And then this will be the back plate side. Sadly, this is not an acrylic setup, which would be see-through and would kind of be nice to look at, but we got this for on the cheap, and we're trying to do this as a budget build, and water cooling is not cheap. I tell you what, I swear to God, the first question, if you're like, I feel like water cooling a PC, the first question as a salesman you have to ask is like, all right, what's your yearly income, man? Because this shit ain't cheap. It is not cheap at all. So we are going to be cutting these thermal pads here. These thermal pads have coatings on them, so make sure you remove those, but we have to cut a lot of these, and we have to cut these to size. So we're going to be using these nice sharp little scissors right here just to get a nice clean cut. And for water blocking your GPU, you're going to be wanting to use your instructions. You can bring them up online, or you can use the paper ones. Unfortunately, mine did not include the instructions. It included everything else but the instructions, and this water block seems wholly unused for the most part. I didn't see any debris or anything when I opened it up. So on here, it will show you the breakdown of the parts as well as the GPU holes and mounts that you're going to be wanting to do. It's going to tell you, remove the stock cooler, and then we're going to be cleaning up the PCB board. We're going to be cutting and placing the thermal pads, and then we're going to be applying the thermal compound, and lastly installing the water block and then the plate on the back as well. So a lot of screws, and we're going to be doing this all manually. Sadly, this does not have an LED strip, so we're not going to be going over that in this video. So before we break into this, we're going to actually be cutting these as best we can. Once cut to size. So it's not actually seemingly going to tell me what the actual size is for these. And then, so I should have 1 millimeter thermal pad. But we have plenty of thermal pads, so. This one came with, what's up? It's 16 millimeters by 120. So that's our 16, clearly that's 120. So 3 of these for this one. And then I guess this is the rest that comes with the back plate. So we're going to be setting those aside for now. And it seems that they do not have preset measurements. You're going to be measuring and cutting to size all of them. So this will be our schematic for doing all of the thermal pads. That. So firstly, we're going to be removing the old cooler, which is this behemoth on top of this card, which actually extends the size of this card about this much. So we're going to be losing a good portion of this card on this build. So firstly, we have these 4 screws, as well as these 3 screws, which retain this block right here. And then we don't have to take off these ones yet, but you have to take off these 3 down here to make sure that this plate comes off. And then these 4, because those are the cooler screws, and then that will pull off. And then you also want to make sure you have this little fan right here. We're not going to be using the fan, so we're just going to push that out. Get a good grip on it there. Alrighty. And we got the fan disengaged. And we have a tamper-proof sticker right here, which we're just going to go right through. So these screws are spring-loaded. Make sure you don't lose that little spring. I don't think they're going to be too relevant in our water block since they give us all of our screws, and it's going to be essentially sandwiched between 2 plates. Alrighty, from there you're going to want to carefully pry apart this. You're going to try not to get the CPU to come with it. Actually, that screw is on the main board right there. Let's see. Those 2, yeah, that's part of the main component. You're going to want to remove these 2. Jeez. Extensive screws, these 3. all of them with a little bit of thread lock on each screw. I wish my 3D printers came like this. So let's take that plate away so it's not attached to the cooler. You're going to want to apply pressure, not in one place and pull, but all around, and there we go. So, this to the trash. And so these thermal pads right here, you're going to want to remove these and then clean up the paste from there and generally give this a good wipe down. We're also going to remove this back plate off of here. That one, that one. So we're going to be working with the prongs downward to match our schematic. And then you're going to want to take a little bit of ISO. And your Q-tip. You're going to want to get all this paste up. Oh, it's really dry. As you can see, it's starting to crack here. So this was definitely needed for this. It'd probably last maybe another 3 to 5 years on this, but yeah, this needed to be opened. We're just going to be really gentle. We have little resistors right here. You just want to get a good cleanup off this, and it's going to take some time. Another way you can clean this that's recommended is you can use a toothbrush in order to get into these ridges here. We don't need to do all of that. We're just going to try to get as much of this as we can up and then get the thermal pads off. So I like to load up our cotton ball here, cotton ball the Q-tip, and then kind of dab on a bit. Let it really get in there. And then you definitely want to get all of the thermal paste off of this chip right here. The sides don't matter as much, but we might as well do a thorough job while we're in here and with this open, because we're not going to be seeing this for a long while. So you don't want to use anything metal as a tool in order to get this up, just as a precaution so you don't scratch or damage any of the components. So we have this plastic little poker tool that we're going to use to get this line up off of there. Around that edge. Alrighty. And then after that, we're going to take a fresh one, step rope, and we're going to make sure we step up all of the isopropyl that has yet to evaporate. Give this plate a nice cleaning. There you go. Now you can see the sheen on the chip right there. Alrighty, so these thermal pads have to come up, and when you're at this point you definitely want to make sure that you have the right schematic in front of you, that all the thermal pads that are on there match up. So it shows that there's a thermal pad here that isn't actually in our schematic, so that would have went right there. So we're going to make sure to also add that in too, if we can. And then these. We're just going to go with a long strip instead of doing individual small ones. Gotta make sure to grab the two up there. I'm going to take a whack and see this long strip covers, yeah, all of those. That's those right there. And then these as well. And then we can leave these caps alone. This seems to be just slightly different from mine, since this is the Founders Edition card. But yeah, pretty much. Oh yeah, I think you can wire another power connector there. So we're going to need two of these ones. And I like to place them alongside where they're going to go. This is a small one. guessing I will need one for this one here, since this is a little bit different from my schematic. I have those ones. Alrighty, so we have that little strip right there, and then this one's going to go on top of there. So these chips back here have it, and these have it. There. This stuff is just crumbling apart. A little wipe down with ISO on top of these chips. Get that thermal gunk off of them. I'm going to remove our first clear pad. You're going to want to guide it with the bottom end of your tweezers. So you're going to want to be as precise as possible, as the cuts in the water block are very precise. This old thermal pad's just crumbling away here. All right, and now we're just gonna clean up all of these little plastic films we just generated. Alrighty. So we're just gonna do some minor cleaning on the plane, make sure it's all clean and ready to go. So we're just going to put some ISO into the channels here. Get it on the Q-tip. You're also going to be prepping this board, so you're going to want to get a bit of ISO here on the PCI bridge connector just to clean it up. Alright. Another one of these invisible films. You're going to go ahead and use your Q-tip to make sure all of these reservoirs are scrubbed of debris. Alrighty, so like these parts right here will fill into these channels. Little cutout right there, little cutout for that one. This is going to be for this area. These will all end up here. Little spot for everything. Alright, so now we're going to add our thermal paste, and we're going to use our little card here, and I like to just take the card and break it in half. Not if you're using one that comes with your kit. Obviously I use these plastic cards that I break in half. Alrighty, we're going to discard the first little bit. Now we're going to want to try to get as thin and even of a layer as we can on this one. Or you can go with the more traditional method of putting an X. But I usually do that for processors, like CPU processors. But for this, I like to be a little more gentle. So you're not going to actually be pressing down like as hard as you can. You're just going to be applying soft pressure and squeegeeing it across that board. And you can use your Q-tips to clean up the edges. As you can see, we missed a little corner right here. So we're just going to be going back over and just squeegeeing down that direction. And then as you can see, it's a little bit more raised here. Just going to squeegee back over. There. Now we got a nice even layer on top of that. I think I stored away my tweezers somewhere. Got some thermal paste right there. Let's clean that off with that. And I've got my sponger. Ah, there they are. These little blue covers like to stick to you. Makes you concerned if you have any static. They are really annoying to get off. They are absolutely the bane of my existence, as many things are.
If everything's the bane of your existence, maybe you're just the bane of existence.
Maybe. I just might be.
You yourself identify as the bane of existence.
What were you saying is exciting, sir? Or interesting?
I don't even know.
You were talking about like your day's going to be interesting or something?
Your deck is
Oh, my deck is going to be interesting, yes. So this guy just does not want to cooperate. So we are going to make him a new one. Trying not to break these thermal pads, trying to remove the protective coating on these things. Oh, that was a tough one. All right, 2 more, guys. Two more, and the mating ritual can begin. There's that. Alrighty. We have got them all off. We're just going to clean up this one here a little bit. And now we can place our block on top of the board. And the best way you're going to be doing this is aligning these 2 screw holes to the back ones here. You're going to flip your board. Alrighty, now that it's seated in there, again we're going to do prong side face down. And then we are going to be using these PVC washers and the M25 X4 AX1 screws. 25. So that's going to be these small ones right here. If I can, stop losing them. Now, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 screws. So interestingly enough, my board layout seems to be slightly different here, even though it's fully compatible. So we got water block goes on top, flip it on. So you're going to want to start with your 4 corners first. Tightening until they are snug. So our outside screws are going to be like that. So actually, since we're doing the back plate, it's going to have us remove these 6 screws right here, so we're going to do those 4. Alrighty, for the back plate, you're also going to be using thermal pads to separate that from the various chips on here. So we are going to open up our back plate. Alrighty. So right here, as you can see, this plate is going to be going on this side. These are going to likely be sitting on the resistors over here. Yeah. Then we have these chips that are going to be sitting on that plate. And then these clusters of resistors, which these small resistors love to pop. And that just ruins the whole board when enough of them go. So we're going to grab our other strips. And we have two sizes for this. We have the 1.5 and the 1 millimeter. So we're going to want to look at our strips. And this is a thicker one, and these are thinner ones. So we're going to separate those. And we're going to be, instead putting these directly on the circuit board, we're going to be putting it directly onto the back plate instead. So let's give our back plate a little clean. Alrighty, so the thin one is going to be these two small little pieces right here. So where is that one? That one, I was looking at it correctly. I want to be right down here. So we're going to be using our thin one. And we have a bit of a custom shape here, so we're going to try to match that as best we can. So we're going to get a bit of a rounding here. And I managed to get a nice tab with the clear side. So I'm going to leave that side and pull the blue side on this one. It doesn't matter which side you use. So we got that nice little weird shape. Come on. Alrighty, we're in there. And I'm just gonna clean that up a little bit. It's like, oh, we got a nice little tab, but we're just gonna cut it right off anyway. Okay. Then the other place is going to be this center part right here. So, yeah, that is a thin one. So we can kind of get a perfect fit like that. round out the edges. A little stamper probably would make this a lot easier. I would say use the blue side so you know which ones you peeled. Because if you use the clear side, you don't know if you peeled it or not. But we are peeling all of these as we go. I'd say the blue side is definitely easier to peel if you're going top. This one kind of just brings the whole thermal pad with it if it's small enough. Alrighty, so that's for the 1mm. And then we are going to move over to the thicker pads, the 1.5mm pads. And we just got large strips. So we're gonna match here. Those three, and then the small strip right here. Just going to be across the whole thing. Sorry, one more time. I mean, I could eat. Why? What's up?
I'm thinking about dinner.
Is Kristen going to be back?
No, it's us today, remember?
Ah, right. Sorry. I am down. Do you mind if I just finish this up?
Yeah, not trying to rush it.
Yeah, I'll be done here in about 10 minutes. I'm curious if people watch this video, if they wonder what like the cryptic code on my hand is all about. And I get all these comments like, what does the code on your hand mean? What does it mean? It's like, it's the bathroom code on my wear, guys.
It means he likes to take a shit.
Quite literal there. All right, come on, last pad. There we go. Yes. Alrighty, this clear plastic is the bane of my existence and probably some poor turtles out there. Alrighty, let's just get all that into the corner there. So now that we have those completed, we're going to make sure that all of the tape is good to go. And then we're going to be lining these up right here with these screws. Oh, I didn't take one of them out. And then for the back plate, you're going to want to use the longer screws over here that they include. And so in my opinion, this one is a lot easier than the Founders Edition because the Founder Edition apparently contains a lot more screws than this one does. While this one is 4 screws here, 6 screws here, done. So I think I got off a lot easier. Alrighty, so let's match our screws in place here. We're just going to drop the back plate so that they match. Alrighty, and those will go right on top of the resistors, these thermal pads. And we're going to have 6 screws. And now, personally, I wouldn't use the washers. Since it's going into the back plate, the washers are, I don't think actually, yeah, the washers don't actually fit inside this little crevice, so you're not going to want to use those. You're just going to want to use the plain screw itself. And we got 6 of them. Alrighty. And then you're going to want to use the star pattern. Why aren't these screwing in? So now we have our GPU block, but we are also going to add actually this plate back onto here. Alrighty, so that is our completed water block. I'll be using these stoppers in order to close off one section of the channel. And then we lost a bit of height, but we gained it back with this little water inlet part here. But this is nice and clean now, and it's very thin. Alrighty, thank you for joining us on this GPU build. Have a wonderful evening, guys.
Shameless YouTube plug here. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe and ring the bell.